Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Path of Strength. Episode 8. Chapter 76. Katalia's POV. I watched Justin started to get angrier and angrier the longer Christopher was inputting his opinion. The moment that Justin started talking, I felt his aura blasted from him, causing nearly every person in this room to submit to him. I tried calming him by rubbing his leg or soothingly, but that did not work. He was far too pissed off, which I guess is understandable. Elder Christopher was spouting all kinds of bullshit. He wanted me to go out there with none of our warriors or, as he put it, the bare minimum, essentially stating that it did not matter if something happened to me. I understood that there were people that were pissed at me and did not like me being their next alpha, but that took it too far. It was almost as if he was trying to get me killed. Everyone was stuck in an uncomfortable silence before King Lucas finally spoke up. King Lucas glanced at Justin, then Christopher, before he began speaking. We will not leave the pack unguarded while we are gone. However, we will not send Katalia by herself, with the bare minimum for warriors, into those woods. Shame on you, Christopher, for even suggesting such a thing. The king paused before turning to look back at Justin. Son, I need you to rein in your aura just a smidge. You are making some of the other people in the room uncomfortable. I felt Justin slowly reining in his aura and everyone was able to begin moving again. I glanced at Oliver, and I could see that he was trying to hide his smirk. You find this amusing? I linked him. He glanced at me before responding, yet. I was waiting for someone to put Christopher in his first place. He wanted to send you to your death. Sounded like he wanted you to be kidnapped by those. I knew Justin was not going to stand for it. I am shocked though, Michael and Elijah should not have been so affected by his aura, since they are alpha blood. Now that I think about it, he is right. Everyone in the room but my father, the king, and myself was affected by Justin's aura. I guess you are right. Maybe it is because Justin will now outrank the two of them? Since Justin is my mate and it has already been established that I will become the next alpha for the pack. That would mean Justin would rightfully be my Luna, which would give him a rank jump. Oliver shrugged his shoulders, and I tuned back into what everyone else was saying. Christopher, I don't know what you were thinking, my father was saying. Dad was very mad too. Looking at him, his face was turning red, and he was starting to shake. He looked like he was ready to shift and rip his face off. If it was not for the severity of the situation and what Christopher was saying could be considered treason to his pack, then I would have laughed at the expression on my father's face. He was pissed. Dad, I know you are mad, I am too. Christopher was out of line with everything that he said, but you looked as if you were about to shift. Would you like to take a break? I need to meet with King Lucas, so we can decide on the warriors that I am taking with me. I watched my father as he took a deep breath before he spoke next. Katalia, I need to be here for that discussion, but I think we can dismiss the elders from the rest of this meeting and speak of the warriors that will be going with you. Some of the elders moved to protest, but King Lucas held up his hand, silencing all of them. You will leave. The Alpha is in charge of choosing which warriors that he is going to trust, therefore, your input will not be necessary. Thank you for your time and unwanted opinions. You are dismissed. King Lucas stated with finality. Once the elders had left the room, my father turned to face me. Katalia, do not get any ideas. We will not be sending you without any warriors. You will have a decent number of warriors for our pack to look after you. Well, there goes that plan. I do not want to leave the pack unprotected, and I do not want to have to deal with the potential that someone will die because they want me. I do not want to have anyone's blood on my hands. I do not want my pack members to die needlessly. I looked over at Justin and he squeezed my hand. Baby, I know what you are feeling and I know what you are thinking, but when these warriors took their oath to become warriors, they knew what they were signing up for. If something were to happen and someone died, it would not be on your head. Every single one of us took an oath not only to our pack, but to the Alpha and his family. And baby, I hate to break it to you, but many of the warriors would die for you if need be. I have not talked to a single warrior that was upset about you being Alpha. They want you as their Alpha. You are very well liked among them. Just promise me, you will not try to play hero and go after them on your own. Please don't do that to me. I cannot lose you. I need to know you are safe. I could feel the tears stinging the back of my eyes and I rapidly blinked, trying to clear them. I promise. I will stick to the plan. I will not sneak off to find them on my own. Thank you for standing by me, Justin. I love you. I could tell my voice was cracking through the link. I could feel the trickle of the tears starting to run down my cheek. Justin reached over and touched the wetness on my cheek, using his thumb to wipe away the moisture. I love you too, my queen. He whispered through the link. I turned back to everyone else in the conference room and they were all just watching our interaction without saying anything. Lucas nodded his head towards me. Are you ready to discuss warriors? I nodded my head at him. First thing first, we are going to start with the key warriors. The ones that will directly surround Katalia. There are a few rare lichens that are a part of my guard that I would like to directly assist you. Ashton is able to create an invisible barrier around himself and those he chooses. This ability makes to where anyone he chooses and himself appear to be invisible, which could help us keep a few warriors near Katalia, without hiding within the tree lines. That would be helpful. If we use your lichen, then I would want to have Justin, Aziel, and Gale with Katalia, plus your lichen. I shook my head. I don't need all of them surrounding me, Alpha. I would prefer to have only 2 guards with me, plus the lichen. I, also, do not want all the stronger warriors with us. A few of them will need to stay behind to help protect our borders. Katalia makes a point. Some of your strong warriors should stay here, but only 1 or 2. I will have some of my guards stay behind to guard your pack and I am sure Alpha Eric would not mind lending a few of his warriors to help you out too, Lucas stated. Alpha Eric nodded his head. I already have a few of my warriors that are on their way to your pack. They will be more than happy to stay to guard your pack while we deal with these bastards. I want to have Garrison with us, I stated, but I want him to be one of the ones hiding in trees. So, for the next several hours, we discussed the pros and cons of each warrior that we would be bringing with us and then we discussed which warriors would be left at the pack and who would be doing the patrols. There were going to be an even number of wolves from Alpha Eric's pack and our pack. King Lucas was, also, going to send us several of his lichens that were going to have the sole mission to protect everyone and make sure no harm came to us. I was shocked to learn how many of the rare form of lichens lived in King Lucas territory. Typically, alpha wolves, once they take over their packs as the new alpha, will develop some type of gift. It could be something like increased speed or healing abilities. With lichens, sometimes, they would develop special gifts that aided them as well. Then, of course, their kings, or queens, would develop special abilities as well, but their abilities would differ from those of the alphas. If a king develops an ability that an alpha could possess, then the reigning monarch would have multiple gifts. Some of the most common Lycan monarch's gifts consisted of control over one, or multiple, elements, necromancy, or the ability to talk to the moon goddess. Legend has it that while alphas, Lycans, and reigning Lycan monarchs have these special gifts, female alphas possess many gifts. On top of the gifts that they possess, their mate bonds are different. Unfortunately, there are not many documents that contain much about female alphas and the abilities that they contain, or even what makes their mate bonds different from those of a regular mate bond, but I was determined to find out. Not only for myself, but also for Justin's sake. I could feel that he was taken aback by his newly found powerful aura, but he was not sure how exactly to hand that. After we left the meeting, Justin and I had to alert the warriors that were chosen to be a part of my special guard and the ones that were going to be traveling with us for this mission and what everyone's role was going to be. I will admit that I am worried everyone agreed to allow Justin to travel with me, but I was nervous, incredibly nervous. What if something happened to him? How would I handle that? And the other thing that neither one of us has bothered to talk about yet is my heat. What are we going to do when I go into heat? How will we handle something like that? What if my heat hits while we are out searching for those bastards? The heat can attract wolves from miles away. Depending on the rank and status of the wolf, the worse the heat is. Not only was I born to an alpha and hold the rank of an alpha female, but I am destined to be the alpha for my pack, which means that my heat is going to be strong and powerful. Hopefully, we can end this quickly and efficiently. Chapter 77. We spent several hours after the meeting alerting each of the warriors about what their duties were going to be when the time came. I guess Justin was right. All the warriors were eager for me to be their alpha and to leave them. Not a single one of them batted their eyes when I told them what their task was going to be. Aziel was excited about his part. He enjoyed the prospect of meeting one of the rare Lycans, having them use their ability on him, and he further enjoyed the prospect of being able to kick someone. He, then, told Justin that he would make sure nothing happened to his woman. Yes, those were his exact words. The only thing I could do was laugh and shake my head at him. It was now late into the night and the warriors that were coming from Alpha Eric's pack and King Lucas' territory had just arrived. Tomorrow afternoon we were set to head to my meeting with the Crimson Shadows Alpha. He promised that he would double his security at his borders to make sure that if we needed an extra hand, they would be there. Justin and I had just gotten back to our room after making sure that everyone had settled in and been fed. I decided to take a quick shower, while Justin said that he had to make a quick phone call. Once out of the shower, Justin was waiting for me in the room, lounging on the bed. I laid down next to him, curling in his arms. He started rubbing small circles along my back. "What are we going to do if my heat hits tomorrow while we are out?" I whispered to him. He froze what he was doing and sat in silence. He mumbled, "I forgot that you would go into heat now that we have fully mated each other. We can go to the doctor tomorrow morning and ask for a heat suppression pill. That should last us through the day. Once we get through the day, then we can allow your heat to come." I nodded my head, accepting his answer. I forgot about the heat suppression pills. They were generally considered to be a taboo subject, but there were still several packs that kept them in stock. They are pills coated in monkshood. I have heard they hurt to ingest and they can weaken you. If I only take one, it should last a full 24 hours, then once it wears off, the unfortunate thing is that it will bring my heat on even quicker. It was going to be a risk I had to take. I could not afford to risk my heat coming tomorrow. I nuzzled into Justin's neck. "I love you," I mumbled. He let out a low groan before shifting me, so he could lay on his side. "My queen, what do you think you are doing?" "Just helping you relax," I smiled. I moved my hand further down his body. Justin pushed me down onto the bed and hovered above me. You are fighting with fire tonight, aren't you? And what are you going to do about it? I teased. I am going to show you what it truly means to fight fire with fire. He stopped his movement to allow me to get used to the sudden intrusion. You are so wet, he groaned. As I neared my release, he slowed down his movements. Go to sleep, my queen. What about you? You never finished. This was not about me. It was about you and taking care of you. I will still be here in the morning if you want to continue what we started. He laid down next to me, pulling me into his arms. Within a few seconds of him pulling me into his arms, my eyes began to droop and eventually let the darkness overtake me. Justin's POV. Once Katalia was asleep, I slowly adjusted her, so I could get up and take my shower. Once I was in the bathroom, I decided that I should probably contact the doctor and ask to have the pill prepared. Drive Lee. Yes, Justin. I need a heat suppression pill for Katalia tomorrow. We are leaving to take down those rogue bastards and we are worried about her heat coming. We just need it suppressed for the next 24 hours. Is Katalia aware of the dangers if she uses that pill? She asked me. I could tell that she was worried about giving us the pill. We are aware of the effects that this pill can have on Katalia. Will you still prepare it for me? Of course, Justin. It will be ready in the morning. Once I finished my shower, I went back to lay with Katalia. I pulled her back into my arms, allowing her head to rest on my chest. I leaned down, kissing the top of her forehead. I love you, I whispered. Before falling asleep, I could not help thinking about what could potentially happen tomorrow. I was thinking of every type of scenario, the best and the worst, which probably was not the best idea. My last thought before being engulfed in darkness was hoping that everything would go as it should tomorrow. Chapter 78. Katalia's POV. I made sure that I woke up early, so that I could begin the necessary preparations for this afternoon. It was time that those bastards were taken down. I wanted them to regret touching any of the people that they had harmed. I had to make sure that all the warriors knew what their roles and positions were. Then, I had to check that the Crimson Shadow Pack was ready, in case it was needed. We were not sure if they would show up or how close they would allow me to get to the border before attacking. I could tell that Justin was becoming more and more worried the closer to time it got. I had hoped that waking him up with S*X would help take off some of the nerves he was feeling, but no, I think it made him more nervous. I could tell he was worried about the prospect this would not go the way we intended it to. Earlier this morning, I stopped by and spoke to Dr. Lee. She made sure I was aware of the implications of the heat suppression pill and that it would last for a full 24 hours. I have until 6 in the morning tomorrow to get this resolved. There is a high probability that this heat will be brought on by taking this pill. Justin and I did not even want to think about the possibility of me going into my heat in the middle of this operation. Now, we were getting ready to leave. We were waiting for Ashton to prepare to use his ability on the warriors that were going to be directly with me. We had decided that Ashton would use his ability before we left the territory. This way, we minimized the risk of someone seeing him use the ability on the warriors that are with me. I looked to my father. I have an idea and it involves us changing the plan a little. He nodded his head for me to continue. They might think it is a trap if they see me walking alone in the woods. It is a very well-known fact that after I was attacked, I refused to go anywhere without one person with me. What if we had one person come with me unhidden? Maybe Michael, Elijah, or Oliver. My dad thought about my idea for a moment before he started nodding his head. You have a point. They may be suspicious if you are walking on your own. How about we have Oliver walk with you unhidden? He will be your beta, so it only makes sense. Oliver nodded his head in agreement. I heard a twig snap from the woods. I have had this feeling since we came outside that we were being watched, and I cannot seem to shake this feeling away. I spun around and peered into the woods, but did not see anything. I shook the feeling away as Ashton used his ability on the warriors. Wow, your ability really does work wonders. If it was not for the fact that I knew they were there, then I would never know that someone was here following me. Wow! Aziel exclaimed, Ashton, imagine all the cool you could get into with this ability. You could always sneak into the women warriors' locker room and watch as they change or shower. I heard someone smack something, which I was assuming was someone smacking Aziel in the head. Aziel, when will you learn to think with your head and not the other head, you? Justin asked him. I chuckled. I figured it was going to be Justin that said something to him. We began our walk to the edge of our territory. We decided that it would technically be easier to walk because there it was only about a 40-minute walk and it gave them a chance to actually attack. Oliver and I had an idle conversation to make it seem like everything was normal and that nothing was wrong. We were about halfway to the Crimson Shadow Pack before I heard twigs snapping in the forest ahead of us. Be alert everyone! Someone is up ahead. I spoke through the pack link. Everyone acknowledged what I said and we continued on like nothing was amiss. A dart shot out and hit Oliver square in the shoulder and he screamed out in pain. I sniffed the air. Monk's hood. That is going to hurt. After Oliver went down to his knees, the three rogues stepped out of the tree line and I froze. You probably did not think you would ever see us again, did you? One of them stated. I was silent for a minute and the only thing that could be heard was Oliver. I had heard my father state through the link that no one was allowed to move towards Oliver. It was too early to give away our positions. Katalia, cat got your tongue? Do you not remember us? Another one stated. I felt Justin walk behind me, steadying me. He squeezed my shoulder in reassurance. I am right here, my queen. They will have to fight over my dead body in order to get to you. Justin whispered through our link. That gave me the courage I needed in order to speak. What do you want? I was shocked how strong my voice sounded when really, I wanted to go run and hide. My hand started to shake, so I moved it behind my back and Justin gripped it to help relax me. They laughed. You, of course. We want what is rightfully ours. See, our youngest brother here has refused to touch any other females because he wanted you. We forgot that when we happened upon you that night that the youngest of us had never had a virgin and you see he was addicted. He was thinking that he was going to be the only one to ever have you again. We came to make his want a reality. I scoffed. Of course, they had some backward idea of what my trauma had meant. You will never touch me again. None of you. He grinned, reminding me of the Cheshire Cat. Of course, we will have our way, filthy whore. Your only job is going to be to please us. We will take your title of Alpha and force you to submit to the rightful Alpha, us. Then, you will be at our beck and call. Anytime we want a good FK, you will be there, waiting. Preferably on your knees. I could feel Justin's rising anger. He was about to snap and he was struggling to hold his aura in. He wanted to release it. He wanted to make them feel pain. Before I could say or do anything else, I felt two darts fly past me. I heard them hit two of my guards. One of them being Ashton. While a Leakin can fight the effects of Monk's Hood, it can still incapacitate them depending on how strong the dose was. As soon as Ashton was hit with the dart, rogues started pouring out of the woods and Ashton's ability had worn off. I felt Justin's panic and his need to run with me. They outnumbered us 7-1. I tried to help where I could, effortlessly dodging their attacks while trying to help out who I could. My first stop was to help Oliver since he still had monkshood in him. Once I released it from his body, he jumped to his feet, but I could tell his motions were still a little sluggish. I warned him to take it easy and don't unnecessarily risk his life. I heard Justin and Elijah scream my name at the same time, before I felt 2 darts pierce me in the back. I screamed out in pain before I dropped to the ground, unable to move my body. It hurts. I could tell Justin was trying to get closer, but he was met with opposition at every turn. I was helpless as I watched him fight off attackers, trying to get to me. Within 10 minutes of me being hit with the darts, there were several smoke bombs that were set off, causing me not to be able to see anything that was going on around me. I felt something bash me in the skull before everything went to black. Chapter 79. Justin's POV. Even though everything seemed as if it was going to go fine and, in our favor, I had stayed alert. I still had a gut feeling that something was going to happen. I watched as the rogues stepped out of the shadows in the trees and were taunting Katalia. She had frozen, so I quietly walked up to her and comforted her the best way that I could. I could feel her fear and anxiety. I was fighting every instinct inside me to pick her up and take off running with her. Katalia asked them what they wanted with her. I was scared to know the answer. There was no reason as to why they wanted her. When they finally responded, I was pissed. You, of course. We want what is rightfully ours. See, our youngest brother here has refused to touch any other females because he wanted you. We forgot that when we happened upon you that night that the youngest of us had never had a virgin, and you see he was addicted. He was thinking that he was going to be the only one to ever have you again. We came to make his want a reality. I wanted blood. I could feel my anger rising and I was struggling to hold my aura back. I wanted to kill them. How dare they talk to my mate like that? Who did they think they were? Justin, you need to keep it under control. That is a command. You cannot blow your cover yet. The Alpha linked me. That was easier said than done. I watched as the first set of darts headed straight to Ashton, which blew our cover, and then all broke loose. Rogues were coming out from everywhere, every crevice in the forest. It was as if they were coming out of the trees. How did we not notice that they were there? I kept Katalia in my periphery as I attacked the rogues who were coming at me in droves. When the 2 darts hit Katalia, my heart stopped. I continued fighting my hardest to get to her, but the rogues were coming straight for me. Everyone was so busy dealing with their own rogues that no one was able to get to her. I tried to link her, telling her to hold on, that I would be there soon, but the link was cut. I couldn't reach her. It must have been the monk's hood that was in those darts. A growl rumbled in my chest as Ares and I fought to get to our mate. As the smoke bombs dropped, Ares forced the shift and we started ripping into the rogues, utilizing our scent to find them. I knew the generalized direction she was in, though I could not see or feel her. As the smoke began to clear, I realized that Katalia was no longer there, and neither were the 3 rogue alphas. They took her. Make sure to keep one alive. I yelled through the link. When I took down the last rogue, I dropped to my knees. I kept trying to get to her through the link, but it was not working. She was out and had a ton of monkshood in her system. How do I stop this? What do I do? I could feel my sanity beginning to slide away. I started to run through the forest, trying to catch her scent so I could follow it. I finally caught her scent, but it was faint. Very faint. I followed it until I reached a dirt trail that led to the main road. Once I hit the main road, her scent vanished. They must have had a car ready. They were ready for us. I think they somehow knew what our plans were. I was taken back to what the rogue that Katalia had interrogated had said earlier. There was a mole in our pack. Someone was passing information to the rogues. Someone wanted Katalia to get hurt. At that thought, my anger flared. When I find out who it is, I am going to kill them. They had better hope that they do not injure Katalia in the slightest. For every ounce of pain that she feels while she is gone, I am going to inflict 10 times that on them. Michael and the king approached me slowly. Justin, I am going to need you to remain calm. We will find her. I did not say anything to them. I know what I would have said if I did not need their help. It is easy for them to tell me to remain calm when it is not their mate that was taken. They don't have to worry about what is going to happen to her. They say they care, but it is not the same thing as having the mate bond flowing through your veins. I froze, remembering that Katalia had taken a heat suppression pill and that it wore off in the morning. Dr. Lee warned us that most likely her heat would come when the pill wore off. I needed to get her back before that point. After disposing of the diseased rogue bodies, we made our way back to the pack to reconvene, taking our prisoner with us. Luckily, none of our pack members died, but there were several that were injured. Katalia, please be all right. Several hours had passed. Once everyone was cleaned up, we met in the conference room to reconvene. I was the first one to speak up. I think we have a mole among us. Someone had to have told them what our plans were. The rogue that Katalia had questioned had said that not everyone in the pack was pleased with her becoming the next alpha. There is someone that has been passing the information to them. My guess? It would have to been someone that was in this room with us, unless the room was bugged. Once I mentioned the possibility of the room being bugged, we all got up and began searching the room before we continued our conversation. I felt under the table over by where Katalia and Alpha had been sitting the last time and my fingers ran over something under the table. I pulled whatever it was out from under the table and realized that it was a transmitter. Someone had been listening to our plans. They knew everything. The only thing they would not have learned was that Katalia had decided that she should be traveling with someone, so Oliver was placed in plain sight. I clapped my hands to get everyone's attention and then placed a finger over my lips, telling them all to be quiet. I held the device in the air for everyone to see. I watched as the Alpha's face darkened. I could tell he was pissed. Someone ratted us out and told the rogues everything that we had planned. I took my glass of water and dropped the device inside it, watching as a few sparks flew once it touched the water. Justin was right. Someone has been listening into everything and then reporting to the rogues about Katalia and what we had planned to do, the Alpha stated. I was lost in my own thoughts when Michael placed his hands on me. Justin, are you okay? I looked at him and shook my head no. We are on a time limit to get Katalia back. Not only do we not know what those bastards are going to do to her, but this morning Katalia took a heat suppression pill, just in case her heat comes today, it wears off at 6 tomorrow morning. This pill can possibly induce her heat when she comes out of it, it will be 10 times harder for anyone to be able to resist her. The only ones that have the chance of resisting the heat is family. I heard several intakes of breaths as I finished speaking. King Lucas pulled out a map and started marking the map with places they could be. We have already sent out some of our best trackers in hopes that they will be able to find her and give us the location. We discussed which warriors would stay with us to get Katalia and who we would leave in the pack. At the end of the conversation, the Alpha, King, and I decided that we were going to go to the dungeon and interrogate the rogue we caught. I was hoping he could give us something that would tell me where she was, before it was too late. I have to keep my promise to her. I cannot let anything happen to her. Chapter 80. Katalia's POV. My head was pounding. It felt like I was being repeatedly stabbed in the head. I slowly squinted my eyes and looked up. I was in some sort of dungeon. I looked at the ground and it was cold and hard. I was surrounded by bars as if I was in a cage. The only light that was in the room was coming from a small, tiny window at the top of the dungeon. I tried remembering what happened and the events that led me to being here. That's right, the fight, the rogues, Justin. I felt a stabbing pain in my lower stomach, causing me to bend over in pain. I reminded myself I could not be too loud and needed to suppress any of my groans. I don't know where my captors are and when they are going to return. The last thing that I need is for them to come down here when they realized I was awake. I tried opening the link. Justin. Justin. Can you hear me? No response. I must still have some remnants of monkshood in my system and that is why I am unable to link them. No matter the distance, I should be able to link Justin. Mates are able to link with each other from any distance. He could be clear across the world and I should be able to reach him. There was another sharp jab in my stomach and I leaned over in pain. I don't know what they did to me, but it hurt. I looked around my entire cell, as quietly as I possibly could, trying to find any and all escape methods. I would settle just for a weapon that I could use. I felt something wet across my face. I wiped my hand across my forehead and realized that I was sweating. Once I realized how much I was sweating, I realized that my body temperature had risen too. That could only mean that it was morning. The heat suppression pill had worn off and I was about to go into my heat. Hopefully, the first round of the heat dies down before they can come in here. It would be easier to fight them off if I was not in pain. The heat is going to come in waves. Each wave is going to be worse than the last. The ultimate goal is to get me to mate and, furthermore, the goal is to get me pregnant. While it is possible for she-wolves to get pregnant at any point in time, they are more fertile during their heat seasons. Please, Goddess, help me find a way out of here. This cannot be what fate has lined up for me. I cried out in pain when another sharp jab of pain jolted through the lower half of my stomach. I vomited on the floor in front of me. Well, so much for being quiet. My entire body was in pain. The slightest movement would hurt. The pain was jarring. I heard the door to the dungeon open and I was surrounded by 3 loud growls of hunger. I moaned in pain, realizing that I couldn't fight off all 3 of them while I was in heat. One of the rogues opened my cell door and stalked towards me. Stay away from me, I moaned. All 3 of them laughed at my statement. You see, little she-wolf, we want you. We are not going to stay away from you. We are going to FK you. You are going to carry our children and, furthermore, we are going to become your alpha, while you are nothing more than a slave. You are going to be our means to an end. Oh, and while we are at it, we are going to kill that little mate of yours, especially since you two have not mated. That way, we can each claim you as our own. I bent over as another jarring round of pain shot through me. The rogue stalking towards me took that as his opportunity to lunge towards me. I was not able to fully dodge his attack, so I raised my knee and hit him in the groin. He grunted before another one of the rogues came from behind and grabbed my arms. My movements became frantic. This was not going to happen to me again. I will fight. They will not win. I screamed and started kicking my feet out. No. The third rogue appeared at my side and grabbed hold of my shirt and ripped it from my body. I swung my head behind me and managed to hit the one that was holding me in the face. I felt his blood spurt onto the back of my neck. You, he snarled, before grabbing me by the hair and yanking my head back. With my head pulled back, the one in front of me noticed the mark that I was wearing proudly on my neck. "Looky here, boys. It seems our girl actually did mate with that supposed mate of hers." He marked her. I wonder why we never noticed his mark. It looks like our intel was sorely lacking. I am going to have to punish him for that. He should have told us she was fully mate. The one that had ripped my shirt off growled, the sound reverberating around the small room. "You cheated on us, you filthy whore! You were ours!" he screamed. I saw his fangs elongated and he tried to mark me. "No," I screamed. The pain from his bite caused my head to spin. My vision was dancing between my eyes and I was seeing spots. He pulled back and screamed in frustration, realizing that his mark did not take. "You just signed your mate's death warrant. We will only be able to mark you once he dies, so now he has to die. We will make sure that we bring you his dead corpse when we are done. Since we cannot mark you yet, we are going to make sure he feels the pain when we touch you." I let out a pain sob as the one in front of me roughly grabbed my boob as another jarring round of heat hit me, causing me to scream in pain. Every time these bastards touched me, the pain worsened because they were not my mate. The third rogue grabbed me by the throat, pulling my face to his. "You will be ours," he snarled before pulling my lips in for a bruising kiss. He forced his tongue past my lips and bit down as hard as I could, drawing his blood. "Filthy bastard," I growled. "Katalia," I heard a faint voice in my head. Good, the monk's hood they doused me with was finally starting to wear off. I kicked out one more time, as more heat flared, and kicked one of them in the groin. I watched as he fell to his knees with tears in his eyes. "You will pay for that, you whore," he screamed at me. I could tell that the adrenaline was wearing off. I was becoming sluggish and the pain was reaching new heights. I could feel the effects of the first round of heat starting to wear off, as I started to slump backwards. I had enough energy to try and partially shift, drawing out one of my claws and swiping it down one of their faces, causing their blood to squirt all over the place. As one of them came back to attack me, the one I kicked in the groin told them to back off. My heat was wearing off and they needed to take care of the injuries I had left on them. The one that had been holding my arms grabbed a fistful of my hair and bashed my head against the wall. I was enveloped by the darkness and for once in my life I welcomed it. Justin's POV: it had just reached 6:30 am and I had just come back from going with one of the tracker teams to find her. Unfortunately, we still did not find anything substantial. I was starting to lose me. Ares was going mad without his mate here. I could not feel her still, which concerned me. I do not think for a moment that they kept her knocked out this entire time. I bent over in pain. I had shooting pains in my lower stomach. "Oh, no. Don't tell me that her heat has started. Drive Lee, please tell me I am crazy. What does it feel like when a she-wolf goes into heat? And is it possible for mates to feel the heat?" "Justin, I have never heard of a mate feeling the effects of the heat, unless it was being driven mad by the scent of their mate and their need to have S***X. As for what it feels like, as you know, a heat cycle comes in waves, which is where each heat wave is worse than the last. The goal is to eventually cause enough pain that you have S**X with your mate. The unfortunate thing is, the longer the heat is allowed to fester and the more cycles you have, the less the female is able to resist. This, in turn, makes it to where it is extremely hard for the female to resist any male. The need to mate and become impregnated is hard to resist. The first wave starts as painful cramping in the lower abdomen. More or less, you feel shooting pains in the abdomen. Oh, no. Her heat started. That is the only thing that could explain the pain that I was in. We need to find her soon, I whispered. Pain shot through me again and I screamed out in pain. Michael ran up to me and caught me as I started to tumble to the ground. Justin! Are you okay? What happened? Katalia, her heat. It started. I am feeling every aspect of her heat as it hits her. I scream out in pain as I feel lacerations cutting across my chest and my entire body racked with pain. They are touching her. Every time they touch her, I am cut open. I mumbled. Ares was losing it in my head. I could feel him trying to force the shift. My wolf was going feral and could not take the pain we were feeling from her. My poor baby. I can only imagine they are putting her through. Goddess, I hope she is fighting back. Get a doctor here, ASAP. Oliver yelled. A few minutes later, pain erupted all over my face and I felt the cuts as they dug deep into my skin. Katalia, I tried to whisper through the link. A few minutes later, there was a stinging pain in my mark. I screamed in pain. The burn in my mark was getting worse. The blood in my veins was heating up and I thought I was going to die just from the sheer shock of the pain I was in. The doctor finally arrived. Oliver demanded that they sedate me. I tried to protest, but it was getting harder to speak. No, don't sedate me. How will I find her if I am knocked out? Those were my last thoughts as the doctor injected me with the sedation. I was enveloped in the darkness and the last thought I had was that I had failed her. Chapter 81. Justin's POV. I groaned when the rays of the sunlight poured through the window. I looked around, trying to sit up. A hand pushed me back down. What happened? I racked my brain trying to remember what happened and why I was in the hospital. Don't move yet. You are still in an immense amount of pain. We have had to keep you sedated for 3 days, everything came rushing back to me. The plan, the rogues, her heat, oh goddess, her heat. Katalia. Katalia, I croaked. I finally looked at the person that was in the room with me. Michael and Oliver. Oliver shook his head sadly. No, they still had her. I quickly sat up and was met with resistance from my body. Goddess, everything hurts. I groaned. I told you not to sit up, Justin. You have been out. Your muscles are sore. We could not think of a better option as her heat continued to ravage you. The more cycles that Katalia would go through, the longer her pain continued to hurt you. Each time, we would give you a stronger dose of monkhood and oleander. With each wave of heat, someone touches her, causing lacerations on your body. Dr. Lee was able to stitch the majority of them, but some are going to leave scars. We tried to make you as comfortable as possible. While we had you in a coma-like state, you were screaming for her. Luna Everly tried coming and using her gift on you, hoping that it would calm your mind, but it was not working. She could not bear to see your pain or to envision what they were doing to Katalia, so King Lucas made her leave the room. The bastards used oleander on me. Of course they did. That is why everything hurts. Looking at my chest, I could see the lines where Dr. Lee had to stitch me up. Since Ares was in pain, too, he was not able to heal me. Are we any closer to finding her? I croaked. Michael and Oliver simultaneously shook their heads. We were hoping that you would be able to find her with the link, which is why we weaned you off the monk's hood and oleander. Katalia is too far out of reach for us to reach her through the link, but you are her mate. You can essentially reach her anywhere as long as she is not on any medication or knocked out. I don't know if I will be able to reach her. Every time I tried to reach her before, I was met by a solid wall, until her heat ravaged her. I felt a small connection when I spoke her name as Ares was losing his mind. Ares, I quietly spoke in my mind. He did not respond. I tried pushing harder and I was able to find a faint link to him. I could tell he was struggling without our mate. He would not last much longer without her. There is a reason mates do not go for prolonged periods of time without each other. I closed my eyes. I need her. We need her. The door to the room opened and Dr. Lee walked in, followed by the Alpha and the King. Justin, the Alpha spoke quietly, I know you are in an intense amount of pain. After all, I have never felt anyone feel the effects of their mate's heat, but we are desperate. I need you to use your mate bond with Katalia and try to see if you can find her through that connection. I closed my eyes. I have to be able to do this for her. I opened my mind, searching for the rope that bonded me to her. Once I found it, I grabbed it tightly, using it to pull me towards her. I was looking through someone's eyes. Katalia. I must be seeing what she is seeing. They had her bound to a table and I could feel the anger that was burning through her. Good, she was fighting back. She was glaring at one of the rogues. You think that your mate is going to find you, he growled at her, he has lost interest. Our informant told us that he had been sleeping with one of the females that he had had previous relations with. I believe he said her name was Anna. Why else would he have avoided coming to you? It has been 4 days that he has let your heat ravish your body, even though he knows you are in our care and we would do anything. I could feel her anger turning into my anger, burning through my veins. How dare they insinuate that I am someone while she is being held captive? My anger was starting to get the best of me. I could tell her anger and her trepidation was getting worse. She feared the bastard was right, that I had abandoned her. I pulled myself back slightly. How do I reach her? What can I do to help her? I had to wait for them to leave the room and then contact her. I cannot take the risk of her eyes glazing over. Unless they have her on monk's hood, maybe if they have her drugged, they will not suspect anyone is able to link her. That is my best hope. I pray they do not realize that I have a link to her and that I am using it. Hopefully, their informant did not know what has actually been going on with me the last several days. I closed my eyes and pushed back into her mind, using the rope binding us and pulling us closer. Katalia, I whispered in her mind. I could tell she was taken aback by the voice she heard, but she was trying not to let it show on her face. Justin, she whispered back, fear evident in her voice, were they telling the truth? Have you been sleeping with Anna? I could tell she was scared of my answer and what it would mean. It kind of hurt the lack of trust that she had in me. I knew she was not going to show them that she was scared of me actually sleeping with her. She would keep up a front, saying that she had absolute trust in me and knew that I would never screw anyone that was not her. I am right here, baby. I am coming for you. I promise. My queen, you know that Anna is nothing to me. She does not even come close to holding a flame to you. You are it for me. I have been sedated for several days, that is why I am just now reaching out to you. I will come for you, but I need your help though. Do you remember anything about where they took you or can you tell me anything that would help me distinguish where you are at? How many are there? I overheard them talking. We are right outside the distance, allowing pack members to link me, about 50 miles north. I pretended that I was still asleep, so they would not know I was listening. I am in a dungeon-like cell, with one window and the top of the room. I suspect that it is underground. The 3 rogues that took me and there are some others, I do not know how many rogues they have, I have typically seen a few women coming and going. They come to bring me the food that I have refused. They are the only ones allowed me since they do not know when the rounds of heat are going to hit me. The women are scared. Scared of the men. A few have had whispered conversations with me, they are hoping that I can save them, even though I am struggling to save myself. I know, my queen. I know. I am so proud of you. You have been so brave, love. You have fought back and that makes me incredibly happy and proud. I will be coming soon. I am going to try to use our bond to make it to where I can get exact information on your location. Are they injecting you with anything to keep you docile? Yes, I can tell that they are injecting me with monkshood by how weak I am. Sky was here with me, but after the third heat cycle, she disappeared into the dark recesses of my mind. I cannot reach her, the food as well, it is laced with something, I just cannot tell what it is. One of the females warned me about the food. My love, I will be there as soon as I can. Keep fighting and give them. I love you. Justin. Wait, she exclaimed quickly, be careful who you trust. They keep talking about multiple informants they have. Only let our inner circle in on the meetings. Don't trust anything else, including the elders. I am not alpha yet, therefore, you are not required to listen to them, like Dad is. Tell Dad that you are asking me to conduct all meetings related to me. If the elders throw a fit, tell them that since the alpha is not conducting any meetings, then they do not need entry. Dad does not like the elders, so if he thinks that it will help me, then he will allow it. If you have to, link him and tell him what I have told you. We do not know who we can trust. If I can figure out who has betrayed the pack, then I will let you know. Check for bugs, or use the mind link for meetings. Anyone you cannot link to, the king will be able to do it for you. I love you, Justin. Please hurry, I don't know how much longer I will be able to last. With those last words, I cut the link and my eyes flew open. Chapter 82. Katalia's POV. The past 4 days, the rogues have gone back and forth trying to assault me and I have fought back each time. Once my heat dies down, they back off, knock me out, and then leave. Usually, by the time the wave has started to wear off, they have to go and attend to the wounds that I have left on them. Each time I woke up to them being in the room. While they are in the room and they think I am asleep, I listen to their conversations. I have gathered that they have 2 informants in my pack, but they are always careful not to say their names. I have learned the name of the 3 brothers that have kidnapped me. The oldest is Tristan, the middle is Tyler, and the youngest is Titan. Titan is the one that is obsessed with me. He was pissed when he realized that I had fully mated with Justin and even went as far as to tell me that I had cheated on him. He punched me in the face when I told him that it is hard to cheat on someone when you were not in a relationship. None of the brothers liked that response. The closest they got to touching me were forced kisses, grabbing my boobs, and one tried to shove his finger in me. I did manage to break that one's finger. I have not heard from Justin or anyone in my pack. I realized the one time I heard someone's voice in my head was Justin calling me through the bond. I tried reaching him, but there was a block up. I hope he is okay too. I know this was his biggest worry, was them taking me and him not being able to get me back. I have kept my promise though. I will fight. I am not that same weak little girl that they had raped when I was 18. I heard clattering as someone walked into the room. I looked up from where I was strapped onto this table. They did this to me after the last heat wave. Titan had tried to put his DK in my mouth and I nearly bit it off. It was after that heat cycle they realized that I might be a little bit crazy. Tristan walked into the room, followed by his brother. He spent half his time taunting me, telling me that Justin had FK'd Anna and that he was not concerned about me. I just had to tune it out. I knew where Justin's loyalty lied. I, also, knew deep down that I would have felt Justin's infidelity. I felt a lingering presence in my head and realized that someone was trying to push through, so I slowly let my barriers down. Justin. It was Justin coming to talk to me and hopefully to help me out of this situation. I told him everything that I knew and everything that I had overheard, including what some of the rogue women had told me. A sudden thought occurred to me: if I felt Justin's infidelity, then he would have felt what those bastards were trying to do to me. That thought scared me. He knows that I have not done anything against him? Right? I slowly let those thoughts drift away. I cannot let myself go down that rabbit hole. That would not be good for either one of us. The cell doors opened again and one of the women came in with a tray of food and a bucket of water and a sponge. Bathe her. Then bring her out to us. Tristan snapped at the women. The three of them left as the woman knelt near my head. She grabbed the keys that they kept hung up and began to unfasten the chains and metal barriers that were holding me to the table. I am sorry about this, the woman whispered. I looked at her inquisitively. What are you sorry for? You have nothing to be sorry for, you are not the one holding me here. She blinked tears away. You are right. I am not here holding you captive, but the water that they want me to bathe you in has monkshood and water hemlock in it. They commanded me to make the water with it. They told me that they wanted to make sure they could hear your screams and cries as punishment for nearly taking off Titan. She whispered, I don't want to hurt you. You sound like a sweet girl, just caught up in a very sticky situation. This poor girl is going to be so upset if she causes me this pain. Just do it, I tell her, help will come. My pack has not abandoned me. My mate will come for us. When he does, I will make sure that all of you are saved. She let out a quiet sob before she placed long, black gloves on her hands. She placed her hand in the water and used it to pull out the sponge, bringing the sponge to my body. The moment the sponge made contact with my skin, I let out a scream with tears rolling down my face. I knew it was going to hurt, but I did not realize it was going to hurt this much. She started whispering she was sorry each time she dipped the sponge in the water and pulled it out, letting the water drop on top of me. I could smell my flesh burning and the smell was making me nauseous. I could feel my head was spinning, which was causing the room to spin. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of passing out from their new form. Katalia. Justin. How was he able to reach me? With the use of the monk's hood and the water hemlock, it should have blocked off my links from everyone. I was barely able to make a sound through the link. The pain was starting to become overwhelming. I was going in and out of consciousness. From pain alone, there has to be more than water hemlock and monk's hood in it. That is the only thing that would explain this pain and my skin burning. I have been exposed to so much monk's hood over the past several days, you would think that my body has started to grow something of an immunity to it. I mean, some parts of the monk's hood were not affecting me. I should not be able to link anyone and they should not be able to reach me. We are coming, my queen. Just give us time. Stay strong and know whatever they have done to you, I will inflict on them 100 times worse. His voice was fading out as if he was in a tunnel. Maybe I was the one that was in the tunnel. The woman takes the sponge and starts to wipe my face. I screamed in agony from the pain. My vision was blurring and I was seeing stars. I could feel the tears washing down my face. I don't know what they put in that water, but there was more than monk's hood and water hemlock. I was definitely sure of that. Once she finished washing my body, she pushed the tray of food to me. Alpha said that you needed to eat. You have been losing weight and his Luna will not be a twig. I shook my head quickly, refusing to eat anything they fed me. The woman shook her head sadly. Titan told me that if you refused the food, then I would shove it down your throat. He, also, told me I would have to feed it to my toddler. He just turned 3 yesterday. I was not going to let her make me feel bad for not wanting to eat the food that they had poisoned, just to keep me weak. If she had any balls, then she would tell them to get bent and she was not going to feed to her children. I slowly opened my mouth to speak and even this was to do. If you, WW were against feeding to your son, then why you would tell the bastards to get bent? No alpha should ever have that kind of control over their pack members. I was barely able to finish my statement above a whisper. I closed my eyes, still trying to fight against the constant pain I was feeling. My entire body was aching from the water she was placing on me. I wanted it to end. I felt my body starting to heat up again and the pain in my abdomen was telling me that I was about to witness my next round of heat. I opened my mouth to say something and she took it as an opportunity to shove the first bite of food into my mouth, causing me to gag and choke. She took her hand and used it to hold my mouth shut, refusing to allow me to spit the food out. I am not feeding this crap to my son, she whispered, you will eat it, even if I need to force you to eat it. When the first bite went down, my head was spinning, and I cried out from another pain. This is not what I needed. My eyes were getting heavy, and I was struggling to form coherent thoughts. The last thing I heard before everything went black was the sounds of fighting and the doors to the dungeon being swung open. Chapter 83. Justin's POV. As soon as I cut the link with Katalia, I sprang into action. The first thing I did was link with Katalia's father. Alpha, I need you to listen to me. I am going to need you to tell everyone that I am running any meetings or recon missions to get Katalia back. We have at least 2 traitors in our midst that are passing along information to the rogues about us and Katalia. Katalia overheard them talking about it, but they were careful never to state any names. She told me to be wary of the elders. Since Katalia is not yet alpha, then I can lead the missions because she does not yet hold the full extent of her rank, meaning that the elders cannot force their way into the meetings. It may be easier if we communicated through mind link in the case of bugs or listening devices. We do not know which rooms have been tampered with. She said that the king would communicate with anyone that does not have a direct link to our pack. Alpha, do I have your blessing to continue? Justin, I trust that you know what you are talking about and I trust my daughter enough to know that she has her full trust and faith in you. You may be the only one that might be able to bring my daughter home to us. You will conduct the meetings, but they will be done over the link. We will continue doing them in the conference room, so that it does not look suspicious. I will make sure that we are not interrupted by the elders. Thank the goddess. I thought the alpha was not going to let me handle this, since I am only his daughter's mate. I could tell that he was putting his full faith in me, since Katalia did too. Thank you, Alpha. Sir, you think I can get discharged, so that we can go ahead and meet in the conference room? He nodded his head and left the room. I turned to the others in the room and told them we would be meeting in the conference room and I would be running the mission to get Katalia home. Michael and Oliver raised their eyebrows at me, but they did not question what I said. I am coming, Katalia. Just hold on. A little longer. I could not get the image of her strapped to that table out of my head. I am going to murder those bastards. Once I am discharged, we meet everyone in the conference room. The Alpha sent the link to everyone that needed to be there. I had already spoken to King Lucas and he assured me that he would translate to the others that did not have the mind link. I opened up the mind link to everyone and explained everything that Katalia had witnessed, and I told them some of the bits and pieces that they had done to her. I could see that the tension in the room was high, knowing what Katalia was going through. I can feel the bond tugging me towards her. We will carefully choose the warriors that will be going with us, and we will make sure that each of them is vetted before we allow them to travel with us. We will break into. I was cut off by the excruciating pain radiating across my body. It felt like I was on fire. I let out a guttural scream as I collapsed to the ground. Michael and the king were the first to get to me. He has blisters appearing all over his body, Michael stated through the link. I used the link to Katalia and pulled myself to her. My surroundings changed. I was no longer seeing the conference room, but the dungeon where Katalia was kept. Katalia was no longer chained, but I could tell that she did not have the energy to move. My poor mate was looking frail. She was lying on the table and there was a woman with a bucket of what looked like water and she was washing her. I could tell that they had added something to the water, which is what was causing Katalia's pain. I watched as she gritted her teeth after that first scream, trying not to let them know they were hurting her. This further hardened my resolve to hurry and get to Katalia. I could tell that my bond was aching for her. The longer I was away from her, I could feel it trying to pull me to her. I wanted to pull her into my arms. I wanted to protect her. We are coming, my queen. Just give us time. Stay strong and know whatever they have done to you, I will inflict on them 100 times worse. I linked to her before our connection dissolved once again. Aries, buddy, I need you. Now more than ever. I will not be able to save our mate without your help. Please help me. She needs us, man, I whispered the last part, and once again he did not respond. The pain from them putting their filthy hands on her must have traumatized him, and now I am going to have to coax him out of the dark recesses of my mind. I internally sighed. Of course, nothing was going to be easy for me. Okay, everyone. Let's begin by discussing potential warriors and the teams that we will split into. Alpha? King Lucas? Are both of you joining us or staying here? They both nodded their heads at me. Okay. I think before I could speak, the door burst open and Christopher and Benjamin busted into the room, followed by several other elders. You cannot be having this meeting, Alpha Michael, without us present. It is our job as the High Elders for the pack to make sure that you are not sending us to our deaths. I interjected before Christopher could piss me off. These days I have a short fuse and he will be at the receiving end of this fuse. Excuse me, High Elder Christopher. You are right, you should be privy to this meeting, if it was Alpha Michael that was leading this meeting. However, you see, it was not Alpha Michael, but rather me that called this meeting. Since I essentially have the title of a mere warrior, even though I am mated to your future Alpha, I am not required to have you here. Furthermore, every single one of the warriors is willing to lay their lives down for my mate. If you would like, we could quite easily call them all here. I would never ask any of them to do anything that I myself am not willing to do. When they took the oath to their pack as a warrior, they took the oath to remain loyal to their Alpha and their Alpha heir. I will make sure that I ask each warrior that is chosen to do anything if they are doing this of their own free will and that they understand the consequences of what their actions could lead to. Now, with all due respect, I need you to get you out of my conference room, so I can figure out how I will save my mate and your future Alpha. I finished by letting the weight of the command push out of me, causing the elders to scramble to leave the room. The Alpha looked at me with an approving smile. You will truly make a remarkable leader to lead this pack with my daughter. I am glad that Selene chose you to be her mate and stand by her side. Thank you, sir. I opened the link back up to continue the discussion, as I was saying, I think our leaders need to be the Alpha, King Lucas, Michael, Oliver, and Beta Damien. Is everyone in agreement with that? There were various acknowledgements through the link as everyone spoke their agreement. However, Oliver asked me why I was not leading a group. I needed to get to Katalia. I will use my bond with her to find exactly where they are holding her and I will secure her. After she is safe and prepared to travel back with us, then I will come and help where I am needed. I want the bastards that dare to touch what is mine, captured. Do not kill them. That right is reserved for me. I will make sure they pay for the pain that they have put my mate through. They will regret the day that they touched Katalia Frost. Oliver nodded his head at my statement and everyone consented to making sure the bastards were caught alive and left to my mercy. What about warriors? Which warriors should be trusted and taken with us? I think we should have at least 6, with at least 1 Legion on each team, if that is all right with the king. That was how the conversation continued. We spoke about each of the warriors that we had, plus the ones that Alpha Eric was loaning us, and the members of the royal guard that King Lucas was lending us. Once we came to an agreement on the warriors we had chosen, including backup warriors as a fail-safe in case anyone is deemed to be untrustworthy, we started calling each warrior in here, one by one. Each warrior was placed under the Alpha command and then the King's command to make sure that their intentions were pure. Much to my excitement, everyone had passed both tests. I was truly worried that I would have to face the possibility that one of the warriors, the men and women that I had bonded with, were the ones responsible for leaking information to the rogues about my mate. The thought of that ate me alive. I was glad to have my worries placed at ease. I made sure each warrior knew what was at stake and what I was asking them to risk. Aziel said that he thinks he speaks for all warriors when he says that he wants Katalia returned to us, safely. He then said he does not think that he could deal with a moody and broody Justin for the rest of his life. I just rolled my eyes at his statement. Sometimes I wonder about that man. I really do. Once we vetted all the warriors, we decided who was going to remain here on patrol. We left a few of our top-ranking guards here to help guard the borders, among the extra warriors and the royal guard, both from King Lucas and Alpha Eric. It was decided that Elijah would remain in charge while we were gone. He would have help from Gamma Sean and the Gamma Heir, James. Once we had everything squared away, I gave the warriors and everyone else 30 minutes to prepare. I spent that time peering through Katalia's eyes, trying to make sure that they were not harming her. The entire time, the woman that I had previously seen was still in there, periodically washing Katalia's body with the tainted water, which made me growl and grit my teeth every time the water touched her skin. Once the 30 minutes were up, I met everyone on the front steps of the pack house. We split everyone into groups and I prepared to tug on the link, making my way to my mate. My queen, we are coming for you. Chapter 84. Once everyone was sorted into their own teams, I made the decision to have everyone shift. I begged quietly for Ares to respond to my call and help me make the shift. Ares, I know you are in there somewhere. Katalia needs us. I need your strength. I cannot do this on my own, I whispered into my mind, hoping that Ares was listening to me and that he would respond to my call. I felt the hair rising on the back of my neck as if I was being watched. I spun around to face the woods, but I did not see anything. As I was about to shift, Dr. Lee ran up to us. I know you need to go, but I have something for Katalia that you might need. Her heat is currently unpredictable. There is no telling when her next cycle will happen. She pulled out a pack and opened it. If you inject her with one of these syringes, then it will work like a heat suppression pill. I modified the pill to be in a liquid state, so we could inject it into her. I looked at the pouch as I took it from the doctor and thanked her. Hopefully, this will not be necessary. I turned back to the other direction and began to strip my clothes. As I go to force the shift, I am shocked when Ares responded to the need to shift. The moment that Ares' paws touched the ground, he tried to go rampant with his need to find his mate. I tried soothing him. I knew what he was feeling and both of our emotions were ricocheting around on the inside, with the need to be released. Ares, we need to find her, but you have to let me help control you, so that we can find her quicker. If you fight me on this, then it will be longer before our mate is back in our arms. He whimpered at my words, but I watched as he tried to stand taller and he stopped his pacing and sniffing the areas in which we were standing. Ready, my voice resounded through the link. Everyone howled their agreement. I could not shake the feeling that we were being watched, but I shook the thought as I bounded off into the woods, letting the bond pull me to my mate. Periodically, I would have to stop because of the pain ravishing my body. My insides felt as if they were on fire. Ares tried to continue, even though we were in pain, but he could not push through the fire that was ravishing our bodies. We would periodically glimpse into Katalia's eyes and see what they were doing to her. The pain we were feeling was from the bath they were giving her. Every time I looked into her eyes, I could see the open wounds that were being caused by monkshood and the water hemlock. It was eating her skin. When we got to her, she would need a doctor. I would be shocked if she was able to shift right now or even communicate with Sky. Whenever I use our link to see what they are doing to her, I can smell the plants. They have been using something extra in the water, but I cannot tell what it was. I have smelt it before, but I am not able to remember the name of the plant that they are using. You okay, Justin? The alpha linked me. Yeah, the pain that they are putting her in, it feels like fire rushing through my veins. I try to push through the pain, but sometimes it becomes too much and I need to stop. His wolf sauntered over to me and helped to nudge Ares back into a standing position. He stayed there helping to hold us up until Ares thought that he could stand on his own without the extra help. Thank you, I mumbled through the link. We continued on. I could feel the bond pulsating the closer I got to Katalia. After about 2 hours of running, I told everyone to stop. We had just come outside of an encampment and I could see the hustle and bustle of the rogues. Katalia has asked that we spare as many of the women and children as possible. She said most of them are here against their wills. She said women are pretty much used as whores, for what they call their warriors and alphas, while children are used as a means to get the women to do their bidding. Everyone stated their agreement and I began to bark out the orders about how each group was going to separate. I was going to use Oliver's group as a distraction. He was going to be the one to get us there. Once all the warriors enter the encampment, I will then break away and continue to follow the pull that continues to pull me to my mate. I gave the signal for Oliver's group to enter the encampment. As soon as the third group entered the encampment, blinding pain shot all over my body. Ares howled and took off running. Waiting. Katalia needed us. I could tell her pain level skyrocketed. I followed the pull until I saw a small building that led underground. Could this be where they are keeping her? I checked the bond and it is trying to pull me beyond this door. I opened the solid metal door and was hit with the stench of blood, decaying bodies, and my nostrils burned with the monkshood that was in the air. I continued following the bond, until I came across another door. I could hear words beyond this door and realized it was the woman that was giving Katalia her bath. I pushed the door open as I heard Katalia scream out. As I opened the door, I saw Katalia's eyes closing and her head slumped backwards. I rushed to her side and pushed the woman out of the way. What did you give her? The woman stuttered but did not answer my question. She backed herself up and huddled next to the wall in the cell that they had Katalia in. I moved closer to Katalia and took her pulse. It was faint, but it was there. I laid my head on her chest, careful not to irritate any of the open wounds, inhaling her scent as I listened to her heartbeat. Her heartbeat was strong. That is a good sign. I turned back to the woman in the room. What did you give her? She still did not answer, so I advanced towards him in anger. She pressed her back further against the wall and I stopped. Katalia asked me not to harm any of the women or children if possible. I bent down to her level and asked her the same question. I made sure that I spoke clearly and tried not to sound threatening. She still did not answer the question, but she pointed to the plate that was sitting near Katalia's head. I walked to it and examined it. I could smell the monk's hood emanating from it. That could not have been what caused this. I could smell the monk's hood all over her, so she has had more than plenty in her system. It would be more of a shock that I was able to communicate with her at all. I picked up a piece of meat and examined it. My fingers were burning just from touching the food. I held it to my nose, careful to make sure that nothing was ingested. As soon as I realized what it was, my heart was thundering as I dropped the meat back onto the plate. Chapter 85. Deadly Nightshade. My heart thundered at what this meant. If left in her system for too long, this will kill her. Deadly Nightshade was worse than monk's hood and water hemlock. With deadly nightshade in her system, it will start to shut down her organs. Just as I was about to ask the woman how they got hold of this plant, I turned around as I heard the door open to the dungeon and a rogue walked in. Just as he walked in, a wonderful, glorious scent filled my nostrils. FK, her heat. Her heat started back up. This was not good. Before I could pull out the pack that had the heat suppression syringes, the rogue was already making his way towards me. I had to fight my instincts to turn around and made her as the rogue that had entered the room lunged towards me. Ares was struggling, trying to remain in control of his urges as I fought this rogue. He had the urge to mate her, but he couldn't. Not yet. Not until she was safe and out of danger and preferably had seen the doctor. The rogue aimed a kick at my throat and I ducked, dodging his attack. Ares, we will be able to fight better if we shift, but you have to control yourself. For Katalia. Ares whimpered in my head as we shifted. The rogue shifted as well and my wolf towered over him. He lunged again and this time he went for a simple kill, aiming for my throat. I twisted my body, dodging out of his body, aiming for his hind legs. I was able to grab one of his legs and bit down. I listened to his bones crunch under my teeth before I moved backwards. He howled in pain as I let go of his hind leg. My goal is to move him further away from Katalia. Her scent was potent and it was spreading to the entire dungeon. I normally want to draw out fights. What can I say? I love fighting, but I knew right now was not the time to draw this out. This time I wanted to end it as quickly as possible. I went in for the quick kill before he could recover from the pain in his leg. I lunged for his throat, wrapping my jaw around his throat tightly and biting down. His blood squirted over me and I waited until he went limp and stopped fighting me before I let his body slide to the floor. I turned back to Katalia and watched as her body writhed on the table, racked with heat. I grabbed the pack with the syringe and pulled it out. I walked to Katalia and injected her body with serum that was given to me by the doctor. I watched as the heat suppression took effect. I felt her forehead and her temperature was finally lowering, her scent was no longer perfuming the room, suffocating me, her heart rate was finally slowing and she stopped thrashing on the table. I gently caressed her cheek before I called for Aziel through the link. Aziel walked through the door and I watched as his eyes flashed to black as he registered the scent of her lingering heat. Down, boy. I gave her the heat suppression medicine. I need you to watch and protect her for me. I need to see if there is anything I can do out there to help them. Aye, Captain. But you should know they probably don't need the extra help. The King and Alpha have pretty much taken care of it all. Unfortunately, the middle of the rogue triplets has died, but they were able to capture and sedate the other two for you. They are mostly cleaning up now, burning the bodies, and a few have been talking to the women and children. I looked out the door that he left open. I could no longer hear the fighting, but that did not mean anything, and truth be told, I did not want to leave her here. I wanted to carry her with me and make sure that she was all right. I nodded my head at Aziel and thanked him for the information. I guess then I will prepare her for transport. She is going to need a doctor immediately. She has ingested deadly nightshade. I watched as his face paled and he glanced at my mate, swallowing audibly. Oh no, Justin, go ahead and head back with her. I will take care of everything else here and I will let the Alpha and King know about the predicament that you are in. I mouthed my thanks and gathered Katalia in my arms, inhaling her heavenly scent. It will be all right, my queen. Everything will be all right. I laid her back on the table and decided that it would be quicker to run. I shifted and had Aziel lay her on Ares's back, making sure that she would not fall from me. I will make sure that you get better, my love. It took me about 3 hours to get back to the pack and I immediately made my way to the hospital. As soon as they saw Katalia on my back, the staff immediately sprang into action. They pulled out a gurney to lay her on and rushed her to a private room. I shifted back and was handed a pair of clothes that I hastily put on. Dr. Lee came rushing out of the room to ask me what had happened to her, so she would know how to effectively treat her. I explained the little bit of information that I knew, and as soon as I mentioned the deadly nightshade, she took off running to Katalia's room to begin flushing her system of the deadly poisons. She told me I had to wait in the waiting room, but the wait was killing me. I had been separated from her long enough and I was struggling to allow myself any more time away from her. After another hour of waiting, Elijah and Luna Isabel walked into the room. Thank goddess I did not have to endure this wait alone any longer. Luna Isabel gave me a big hug and thanked me for saving her daughter. The pleasure was mine. After all, she is my mate. I was going crazy without her. And now, I am not even sure she is going to survive. I finished, my voice cracking at the end. The tears started running down my face as everything from the past couple of days finally caught up with me. The Luna wrapped her arms around me and held me tightly. You, my future son-in-law, are incredibly brave and strong. I know my daughter will be proud of you. I am proud of you. I linked your mother and she is on the way. I want you to have some of your family here too, it will help you. And I know your sister has become quite fond of my daughter, and so have your parents. When the Luna let go of me, Elijah walked up to me and wrapped his arms around my shoulders. Thank you for getting her back, he whispered, I don't know what we would have done without her. He let go of me and quickly turned, trying to inconspicuously wipe the tears from his eyes. A few minutes later, my mom, dad, and sister walked in the door. Jessica nearly attacked me, sobbing into my neck and telling me how grateful she is that Katalia is now back. After that, we waited in a calm silence, waiting to hear what the doctor was going to say about her condition and how she was doing. After another few hours, the guys that had been with us to retrieve my mate had come in. Aziel walked next to me and just sat down. Not saying anything. He knew what was going through my mind right now. After they arrived, Oliver arrived, followed by the rest of Katalia's family and his family. It was the middle of the night before anyone came to update us. We have officially siphoned all the poison out of her bloodstream. We are currently working to fix some of her internal organs. A few of her organs have shut down since being injected with the nightshade. We are thinking that if Justin was near her, then it would speed up the healing process, until we are able to awaken Katalia. We are trying to find a way that will awaken her wolf so that she can heal Katalia. We are currently limiting the guests that are allowed in the room as we fight against the heat that is coming and going on. I nodded my head and stood to walk with the nurse to the room they had her in. When I walked in, I was not prepared for what I saw. Katalia was hooked up to a total of 15 machines, with tubes coming out of her in a number of different places. I walked to her bed and took a seat, making sure that I was comfortable. I laid my head on her stomach, careful to avoid any of the wires and tubes sticking from her. Chapter 86. 5 days have passed since we brought back Katalia. The entire time, the doctors kept her in a coma-like state. They are hoping if they leave her in an in-between state, it will help her body better fight the poisons that were racking her body. Dr. Lee told me that they have been continuously trying to get Sky to come forward, but have failed miserably each time. Today, they wanted Aries and I to try and bring forth Katalia's wolf. Dr. Lee explained that there were once rumors about female alphas that were too injured and being placed in a coma, either from their own circumstances or forced by a medical professional. She said that oftentimes the only way to bring forth their wolves was to use the bond that was created between their mates, saying something about there being a special connection between us. Her hope was that Aries and I could push ourselves into her mind, causing us to have a link to her that would allow us to search her mind in search of Sky. Once we brought Sky forward, then we could slowly begin awakening Katalia. Personally, this was all starting to feel like a bad supernatural episode or like the movie Jacob's Ladder. I shook my head, clearing it of those thoughts. Katalia had many visitors during the entire time that she had been here. Mainly her family and then a lot of the warriors, as well as a few pack members have come to visit her. My mom and the Luna have repeatedly told me that I should leave her room to go shower, get myself food, or get a full night's rest, but I can't bring myself to leave her side. I can't bring myself to sleep. When I close my eyes, I see the state that Katalia was in when I found her and I lose it each time. As for food, someone usually brings me food. I don't really eat it. I mainly just push it around my plate and then I throw it away. The Luna knows that I have not been eating much and she lectured me about how Katalia would want me to take care of myself, but I have no appetite. Right now, everything tastes bland. It feels bland. I am, also, worried that if I close my eyes then I will miss something. Katalia has made several small movements, usually when I am near, which are gentle reminders to me that she is alive. She is alive. She will wake up. They have been constantly giving her heat suppression medication. The first time that it wore off, she almost sent the entire hospital, myself included, into a rut. While I waited for Dr. Lee to give her the medication, I had to fight off the unmated males, and a few females, from raping her. While fighting them off, I had to fight my own urges to take her. Aries and I were in agreement, we would never forcibly take her, but her scent perfuming the room nearly killed us. We had several warriors that were visiting her, along with Oliver, Michael, Elijah, and James. It did not affect Michael or Elijah because they are directly related to her, but, we had a brawl in her hospital room, on top of some of the unmated male staff and the few women staff that were gay, trying to attack my mate. From that point on, we decided that we were going to limit the number of people that were allowed to visit Katalia at once. This way, if it unfortunately happened again, then there would not be as many people in the room. Dr. Lee, Also, ordered that only mated males and straight or mated females were allowed on this side of the hospital, so that we could hopefully prevent sending the hospital into a rut again. Another preventative measure we took was to make sure that we kept the heat suppression medication in the room, so anyone could inject her with it. Her heat is going and extremely painful the longer she goes without mating, once awake. She has had 4 attempted cycles since being in the hospital. Not to mention, at least 2 or 3 while she was with the rogues. Dr. Lee said that if I could bring her wolf forward, even just slightly, then we could start to wean her off of the medication and allow her to become lucid. Dr. Lee walked into the room with Michael in tow. "Are you ready?" she asked, looking at me. I nodded my head without taking my eyes off my mate. "I am coming for you, my queen. I am going to put you in a deep sleep for a few hours. During this time, Aries, and by default your job, will be to find Sky. You may see Katalia, but I doubt it. Once you find Sky, it will be your job to bring her to the forefront of her mind. We will know when you succeed. If all goes as planned, Katalia's eyes will flash open and glow. Once I see that, or in 2 hours, whichever happens first, I will start to wean you off the medication, so you will wake up. I will warn you, I have seen this happen once before. The wolf may be hiding and she may be scared. Your job will be to assure her and bring her back. Do you think you can handle this?" I nodded my head and laid on the bed that was next to hers. Once I was on the bed, Dr. Lee began the process of inserting the tubes and the 4 into my arms. I laid down and relaxed as Dr. Lee held up the syringe. I nodded my head to her as she injected the liquid into my 4. "Take care of my queen," I whispered to Michael as I fell asleep. I looked around the room we were in and it was eerily similar to the hospital. I looked next to me and realized that Aries had taken his shape too. "This is some weird shit," Aries said. I nodded my head in agreement. "Where do you think Sky is hiding?" I asked him. "Maybe the forest." So, we made our way out of the pack hospital. It was weird seeing the pack so quiet and empty. We worked our way through the forest and traveled the entire territory, but could not find her to save our lives. Where would she be hiding? So, it began. We searched everywhere we could think of, trying to find her. I remembered a place that she told me that she used to go to all the time with her brothers, so I thought we would try that. It was our last hope. Nowhere else we have looked proved anything futile. Katalia told me that when she was younger and she would get upset, there was a house at the edge of the territory that she would to. She would tell me that it used to be her grandparents once they retired from being Alpha and Luna. She said that even once they passed, her parents never got rid of it and that the house still had many of their belongings, so she would go there when she wanted advice or to hide from the world. Elijah and Michael would do the same thing. That is the only place that I could think of that she or Sky would be hiding. I have to find her soon. I am not sure how long I have been in her head searching for her. We made our way to the other side of the territory and I finally saw the small brick house. I remembered the first time that Katalia showed me the little sanctuary that she had as a child. It was a little cottage that sat near the edge of the territory. The bricks for the house had been painted a baby blue because that was her grandmother's favorite color. The furniture was modern, with a few antique pieces thrown in. Her grandmother's favorite china set had been set out on the table, just as she always left it. Katalia said that she would come here and pretend she was talking to them when she needed advice. I remembered the way Katalia's face lit up when she was talking about her grandparents and how even when they were gone and she would come here for her advice, she would feel 1,000 times better by the time she went home. She told me that she hoped her future children would feel that way about her house, if she ever had children. I remembered that her statement shocked me because we hadn't mated by this point and she was quite adamant that she did not want a mate, nor did she want to complete the mating process, let alone mark each other. I smiled to myself just thinking about it and how far we have come since that day. Goddess, I missed her. I shook my head, clearing off all the thoughts as I walked up to the front door of the cottage. I pushed the door open slightly. Katalia. I called out, Sky. I was hoping someone would answer me, but I realized that would be too easy. I walked through the house, checking each room before I found the one that had belonged to Katalia when she was visiting her grandparents. I pushed the door open slowly before looking around the room. I gasped in horror when I saw her wolf and the condition she was in. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.